This Lawn Boy mower has a very interesting history with me. I found it years ago being given away by an older gentleman about 3 miles from where I live. I then got it running again and eventually sold it to a friend, but after 2 years, that same friend exchanged it for a different type of mower, so I've got it back, but not for long. I have a few plans for it, but unfortunately, it's not going to be with me for very much longer. In today's video, we look at this Lawn Boy mower, and the problem is that the pull rope and recoil doesn't always work like it should, so it doesn't always catch the engine and turn it over properly. That means starting it is really difficult to do, so we're going to try and fix it along with one other project as well. Now, I'm going to try and repair this mower, however, it may not be the exact repair you need to make to yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. Now, we're only going to mention what these other options could be. We don't have enough time to look into them, but if you need more information on these options, you're welcome to ask as many questions as you need to. I'm not sure how you feel about Lawn Boy mowers, especially the ones with the 2-stroke engines, but if you saw in the fuel economy video I posted a few weeks ago, it turns out these emissions outlaws are very fuel efficient, lasting over 26 minutes on only 8 ounces of fuel. Now, if you think I might have made a mistake during the testing, then click on the link at the top right of your screen and see if you can find what I may have done wrong during the testing. So the first thing I need to fix on this mower is the recoil, and the issue is that it won't catch the starter cup on the flywheel when initially pulling on the rope. If you don't pull it fast enough, it won't catch at all, but when it does catch, it's about halfway during the pull. The problem is by then that you'll have only about half of the rope to make a decent pull, but sometimes that's not enough to make it start. Now, this has to be one of the most annoying issues I've ever come across, and it seems to happen on this style of recoil more often than any other one I've worked on. Luckily, the fix for this is kind of simple. The only issue is we've got to get to the top of the recoil by removing the top cover. Once the cover is out of the way, we can then see the top of the recoil assembly. Next, I've got to remove the sticker that's covering the part we need to get to. I want to put this sticker back on, so I'm going to try and not to damage it. It's probably not an issue, but since the factory made a point to cover it, then it must be important. After removing the sticker, you can see a little white plastic piece in the middle. Now, this part is somehow responsible for how the recoil works, and to fix our issue, we just need to put a screw in the middle of it. I have seen it done in different ways, but you just need to put a screw less than half an inch into the middle of it. After that, check to make sure the recoil is catching like it should. And if it is, I'll then replace the sticker. Now, once that's done, I'll put the top back on and then try starting it. Once the cover is back on, I'll then put some fuel into the tank. Now, the fuel I'm using is mixed fuel with a cheap 2-cycle oil and 89 octane 100% gasoline. The ratio for the mixture is marked on the fuel cap as 32 parts of gasoline to 1 part oil. Before I started, I do want to take a couple of practice pulls, and as you can see, it's working much better than before. I also never realized how much compression this engine actually has. It's lifting the front of the mower up on almost every pull. So fortunately, the fix seems to have worked, and this mower should be ready to be put up for sale. Now, the recoil not catching was the biggest issue this mower was having, and no one was going to buy it with it not working correctly. But I do want to do one more thing before sending it on its way, and unfortunately, it's something that I should have done while working on the recoil. Now, even though this rope is not broken, it's showing signs of fraying, which means it's only a matter of time until it does break. I do believe this is the original rope, so I'm going to replace it. Now, I should have done this repair earlier when I had access to the recoil, but I didn't do it for a very good reason. Now, the reason I held off doing the repair was because if I couldn't fix the issue with the recoil not catching the starter cup, the plan was to buy a new recoil assembly, which of course would have a new rope already installed on it. However, since I was able to fix the original one, now I have to go back and replace the rope in a separate repair. Once the cover is off the engine, all we need to do is remove the 2 nuts and 2 bolts that hold the assembly to the engine, and then carefully take the cover off the engine. Now, a new recoil assembly is not that expensive. However, I'd have to remove the old assembly from the cover, which is not going to be fun to do. Also, be very careful when taking off the cover because this particular part is difficult to find and expensive as well. With the recoil out of the way, we can finally see the starter cup, and it's also got a lot of debris sitting inside it. Before we continue with the repair, I want to vacuum out as much of the debris as I can, otherwise it could interfere with the pulse or the recoil itself. Now, I don't need it to be spotless, I just need the loose debris to be gone. However, if you're doing this job and you want it to be completely clean, well, that's up to you. After that, we can remove the original rope. To remove the rope, you just need to pull all the rope out of the recoil and then put a screwdriver into the recoil to keep the spring from losing its tension. Then find the end of the rope and cut the knot off, and after that, the rope should come right out of the assembly. Now, don't get rid of the rope just yet, because we can use the old rope to figure out how much of the new rope we need to use. I'm also adding about 6 extra inches as well for insurance. I'll then push the new rope through the assembly, putting a knot at the end, and then removing the screwdriver to allow the rope to wind itself back onto the pulley. So I have to be honest here, but I used the wrong size rope for this recoil. If I had to guess, I think the rope that came off of here was probably a 4.5, but the problem is that the rope that I have is a number 6, which is much too large. So what's the problem using a larger rope? Well, it means I'm going to have a hard time fishing the rope through the smaller openings in the pulley and the handle. Also, I might have a hard time getting all of the rope to fit on the pulley, which means there will be times when the rope will hang loose, but other times it might wind up just right. In the future, I'll have to buy a slightly smaller rope size, but for now, it's all I have. At least you won't have to worry about the rope breaking. Once I'm satisfied that the rope and the recoil are working well together, I'll then replace the recoil and the cover. Now, this engine is very simple to work on. However, the most complex part is the carb and the airbox. If I had to redesign this engine, that's the only part I would focus on and make it a little bit easier to work with. If you've never used one of these mowers and you're asking yourself why would you even want to use one, I have a few good reasons why. The first is that you never have to change the oil on it. Since you're using mixed fuel, it's always getting fresh oil with the gasoline. That means if you're using it every day for hours at a time, you don't need to worry about how many hours it's been running and worrying about changing the oil. The next reason is almost just as important, but only if you have to mow a ditch or a hillside, and that's oil lubrication. Now, most mowers only allow a maximum of a 20-degree slope before you have to worry about the engine getting properly lubricated. But on this engine, yet again, since the oil is mixed with the gasoline, as long as you don't run your fuel too low, you don't have to worry about mowing steep hills, as far as lubrication goes at least. Once the handle is back on, I'm going to give it a slow pull to see if the rope is going to have any issues winding up on the pulley because of its size. Now, the engine has a ton of compression, so it's really tough to pull when it's on the compression stroke, but at least on a slow pull, it seems to wind up okay. I may cut the rope so the handle isn't so loose, but it's not a major concern at the moment. To be honest, I will miss this thing because it's the only 2-stroke lawn boy I've owned that had the bag and the chute for it, but I don't care to bag my grass either, so I'm not going to use it. Another reason why the recoil wouldn't be catching the starter cup would be an issue with the pulse, and if that was the case, I would have just replaced the recoil assembly instead, and then I wouldn't have to replace the rope as well. So in the end, it really was a simple fix, aside from the rope of course, but I wouldn't blame anyone if they took the easy route and just bought a new part instead. So my question is, would you rather buy a $20 recoil to fix the catching issue, or would you at least try the method I used instead? Now, you really don't have anything to lose by trying, so hopefully you'd give it a shot. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.